I recently shot a wedding video and I realized that one of my cameras has some stuck pixels. In this video, I'm going to go over two methods for addressing stuck pixels in video footage. I'm going to first show an older method using VirtualDub and a VirtualDub filter called DeLogo. And the second method is using a script with GIMP, batch processing images, then reassembling that image sequence back into a video. So I have this folder called Stuck Pixel Fix. It contains an empty folder called Input, an empty folder called Output, and a folder called Source Video. This contains my video with the stuck pixel. I have this text file containing the procedure which I'll be following along with. A link to this file will be in the description. So we're going to start with the older method first. I've downloaded a 32-bit version of VirtualDub. I'm just going to extract this to the desktop, extract all to the desktop, and then I have this filter called DeLogo, extract that to the desktop as well. So within VirtualDub, the plugins 32 folder, that's where we want to put this filter. So I open DeLogo 132, right-click copy the DeLogo.vdf file, and paste it in this plugins 32 folder. Now if I run VirtualDub, I'm also going to need to install the codec I use for this video. That's the laggard lossless codec in my case. I'll install that now. I'll actually need to close and reopen VirtualDub. File, open, and I go to my Stuck Pixel Fix folder, source video, stuckpixels.avi. Now there's one of the stuck pixels right there. There's actually another one over here which we can't really see, but this is the primary one we'll worry about in this test video. So what I can do is I can go to Video Filters, Add, and then DeLogo. Now here is where we would open the show preview, and we're going to want to scrub to one of the frames that has a good look at that stuck pixel. Right about there has a really good look at that stuck pixel. We can click on Save Frame, and it's going to ask us where we want to save this bitmap file. I'm just going to save it to the desktop. We'll call it mask, and I'm going to close this for now, close out of that, and minimize. And next we'll install GIMP. I'm just going to double click on GIMP 2.10.38. Install for all users, yes. You could create the mask in MS Paint, but I find the new version of MS Paint for Windows 11 is horrendous. So we'll actually use GIMP. I know you can get the older versions of MS Paint for newer versions of Windows, but we'll just stick with GIMP in this case. It never ceases to amaze how Microsoft could take something that works well and is simple and just try and make it better and make it worse. They do that over and over. So we'll click Finish, we'll open GIMP, and I'm going to open that mask.bmp file. So File, Open, Desktop, mask.bmp. If I zoom in on that stuck pixel, you want to make sure that the pencil is selected. If I right-click, I can select Pencil. You don't want the paintbrush, you want the pencil. And then we select pixel, a size of 1. It defaults to 3, but you want to go down to 1. And we're going to want to draw this in red. So red 255, green 0, blue 0. And we're going to draw over the pixel and some surrounding pixels, because when this stuck pixel was compressed, it left some compression artifacts around the pixel. We want to be sure we cover those as well. It's up to you how much of it you want to cover. I'll be a little bit more aggressive and better cover that haloing of artifacts. And there is a stuck pixel over here somewhere. I'm not going to worry about that for now. And we're just going to go to File and overwrite mask.bmp. Now if I go back to VirtualDub and I go to Video, Filters, Add, go down to DeLogo, OK. And now under Repair, I want to click on Load, and I load this mask here that we just created. So this generated the mask file. We edited it with GIMP and drew in full red over the stuck pixel and the halo around it of video artifacts. Now if I click on Repair and Show Preview, that's the portion that was marked for repair. You also see how it's outlined in yellow. If I go back to Standard Preview, we can then scrub through the footage and see what that looks like. So it does a decent job. I mean, we see right here it looks a little weird. Yeah, right in there it looks just a little weird where it's basically filling that dead spot. On frame 41 is where it looks definitely a little suspicious. And as the video plays on, that spot is going to have that same issue. It's more prominent when you have edges, like high contrast edges. In this case, the edges of the darkness here and the lightness here. I mean, it looks good if you just look at the frame as is, but again, with motion, it's going to be a lot more obvious. So this is the older approach for addressing a stuck pixel, and it's okay. The advantages of this approach are it's pretty easy to set up, and you can just set up your filter and create your mask and then just render your video. Now the other method, which is what I'm ultimately going to use, uses GIMP and a script to perform this using Resynthesizer for GIMP. And I think we're going to get a little bit better results going that route. But what I am going to do is I'm going to render this video so we can compare against the other method. So for my compression, I'm going to select the Laggard Lossless Codec, and let's go ahead and save this. We'll save it to the desktop, and we'll call it Stuck Pixels DeLogo Fix. I'll put links in the description to all the software used for this. So now I'm going to close VirtualDub and we'll go on to method 2. The second method I think does a better job, but again is more computationally expensive. So I'm going to use a 64-bit version of VirtualDub. We had used a 32-bit version with DeLogo. I'm going to extract the 64-bit version. Here it is. I'm also going to need to install Resynthesizer for GIMP. So I'm going to right-click on the Resynthesizer zip, extract all, and in the Resynthesizer folder, all these Python scripts, the .py files, as well as the 2 executables. I'm going to right-click and go to copy, and then I'm going to open up C:/, open up the C drive, go to users, user, app data, roaming, GIMP, 2.10 in my case, and then under plugins, I'm going to paste those Python scripts and those 2 executable files in this folder. Now Resynthesizer should be available in GIMP. I'm going to close GIMP and reopen it. We see Resynthesizer loading right there. Now I'm going to minimize GIMP, and we're going to open up the 64-bit version of VirtualDub, the application here, VDub64. I'm going to go to File, Open, and this is my source video file with the stuck pixel. And we see the stuck pixel right there. Now I'm going to want to save this as an image sequence. So I go to File, Export, Image Sequence. Now in this case, this video is only 408 frames. So I can get away with just 3 digits. For a longer video, you're going to want to use more digits. I'm going to save this as video with 3 digits.png, so a PNG image sequence. I'm going to save it to my desktop folder for the stuck pixel fix and input. So it's going to save this video as an image sequence, a PNG image sequence, to this input folder. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to proceed with that. Now if you have a long video, and certainly if you have something like 4K footage, this is going to take quite a while. You're going to need to have a decent amount of storage. In this case, this is just a very brief sample piece of footage, and already it's going to be consuming a fair amount of disk space because I'm dealing basically with losslessly compressed video frames here. So once this is done saving that image sequence, we're going to open up one of the pictures and create our mask and mask out that stuck pixel. And just a reminder, you can follow along with this text guide that I'll include. A link to this text guide will be in the description. Now while this is rendering, we can actually work on creating our mask. I'm going to go to GIMP, I'm going to go to File, Open, I'm going to go to my desktop, Stuck Pixel Fix, Input, and I'll open one of these images. Image 33, it's kind of on the edge there. I'm going to close this and open up a different image. 33 would be a good one to check to see the quality of the pixel fix, but I'm going to maybe go to frame 20. I might get a better view of that pixel. Yeah. So whereas before we were drawing in red, I'm going to instead draw in magenta. So I'm going to click on the red there, and then magenta is red 255, green 0, blue 255. And we're going to be continuing to draw using the pencil tool, not the paintbrush. We want these to be solid magenta pixels. They can't be anything other than solid magenta. We're using a pixel size of 1 by 1 pixel. So I'm going to zoom in, draw over that stuck pixel and the surrounding halo of compression artifacts. That looks good right there. Next, I'm going to select by color. So select by color. Well, actually, first what I need to do is I need to add a transparency layer. So layer, transparency, add alpha channel. And now I can select by color. I'm selecting the magenta. I'm going to then invert the selection. So select invert. Then I'm going to press the delete key. And what that does is it deletes everything aside from what I drew over in magenta for that stuck pixel. And this is going to be our mask. Basically, this is going to be composited over every single frame in that image sequence. Then we're going to tell in the script, we're going to tell GIMP to target just that magenta portion and then perform the resynthesize on that portion. So I'm going to select none. I'm going to then export as, and I'm going to save this to the desktop. I'm just going to call it mask.png. And I'm going to close GIMP. Discard changes, and we're almost done with our image sequence rendering. But while that's still working on that, we need to now create our GIMP script. Now in that text file, I have the script written already. And I wrote this with ChatGPT doing the heavy lifting. So this is going to basically open up the input folder. It's going to process all images in that input folder that are PNGs, JPEGs, whatnot. Again, we're just going to be using PNGs, but this, as written, will work with JPEGs and bitmaps and TIFFs as well. So it's going to work from all the images in that input folder. It's going to composite over each of those images the mask that we created. It's going to then target that magenta area and then perform resynthesize on that portion. And then it's going to save that to the output folder. So we're providing the input folder, the output folder, the mask, and the radius to use for the heal or resynthesize operation. So I'm just going to click and drag and just select the script here, right click, copy, and I'm going to create a new file, paste that script in, and I'm going to go to File. Actually, what did I call this? I called this process images.py. So I go to the file that I pasted in there, File Save As, and we're going to save this into, I'm going to type in C:// it's going to be users, user in my case, app data, roaming, GIMP 2.10 in my case, and then right where we pasted those resynthesizer Python files and application files in the plugins folder, I'm going to call this process_images.py, and save as type should be selected. You should select all files for save as type. And then we see all those Python files that we had in there as well as the application files. So process_images.py saved in this path, and we can close that. And we're done with VirtualDub for now, so I'm just going to close VirtualDub. And we're going to reopen GIMP. Now we're going to go to Filters, Python foo, Console. And then we're going to copy and paste this command. This is going to run that process images Python script. So I'm going to copy, paste that in. Now I need to modify this a little bit. So C drive users, user, desktop, stuck pixel fix input. That is my input folder. C drive users, user, desktop, stuck pixel fix output. That is my output folder. Now my mask is in C drive users, user, desktop, mask.png. So I need to change that up a little bit. So C drive users, user, desktop, mask.png was that mask image we created in GIMP earlier. And then 5 is the radius of pixels to sample from when painting over that magenta area that we drew. And I'm just going to select 5 pixels as the radius. You can certainly play with this value to your liking, but 5, from my perspective, seems like a decent amount for painting over a pixel that's, only going to be maybe 8 or so pixels wide by maybe 5 pixels tall. So as soon as I hit enter, it's going to run that process. If I go to GIMP here, we see it working on the images. Video 000.png, video 001.png. So it's performing this process on each of those images in that image sequence. And if we go to stuck pixel fix and look at the output folder, we see them being generated one by one. Now this certainly is a rather slow process. The full video portion that I recorded with the stuck pixel was around, I think, 40 minutes. And I think I calculated it's going to take one of my more powerful workstations about 2 days to process those 60,000 or so images. But it's batch processing, so it's more of just a waiting game. Now let's take a look at one of these images while we're at it. We're just going to open it with the Photos application here. Yeah, we can see right there is where it patched over, and I can see there I could probably just make that magenta area a little bit larger to get rid of some of these artifacts. So of course, that can have implications too if you make the area too large. You don't want it to be too large because it'll be pretty obvious when you're at edges that it was repaired. So this is going to be doing its thing for a while here, even with these 400 or so images. But when it's done, I'm going to reassemble this as a video file, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to composite those over each other and then render that so we can kind of see just how good of a fix it was. Looks like we're just about done processing these images. Image 407 was the final image. So I'm going to close GIMP. We're going to reopen VirtualDub and File, Open. We're going to browse to the Output folder and open the first image, which is video 000. And that reassembles the image sequence. We can then save this as a video file. It's around frame 30 where the stuck pixel, you can kind of certainly see right in there, it looks a little interesting, like something's going on. Yeah, especially on frame 39 and 38, we see right in there. If I zoom in to 200%, yeah, most obvious on frames 38 and 39 in this case. Also frame 43. So I'm going to go ahead and render this as a video file, and then I'm going to composite this with the other version that was fixed using DeLogo, and we'll compare and contrast. And if your original video contained an audio stream, you'll want to go to Audio, Audio from Other File, and then select that source video file to use the audio stream from it. In this case, this video file doesn't have an audio stream. So I'm going to go to Compression, Labyrinth Lossless Codec, and I'm going to save this as Stuck Pixels, GIMP Resynthesizer. And then I'll use Kdenlive to string them all together so we can compare and contrast. On this frame, it's pretty obvious in the DeLogo fix version. But as I scrub in further, on this frame, I see right there. So it seems like pros and cons with both approaches. Like this frame right here, it looks like a little, kind of see a little bump of darkness, whereas in the DeLogo version, that's not present. Right there, that stuck pixel is kind of right in the center of between just married. As I scrub through the footage, I see some artifacts right there, whereas it's not really present on the Resynthesizer version. So right now the stuck pixel is just to the top right of the M of married. See in the DeLogo version right about there. Again, there's a lot of artifacting from this being not highly compressed VP8, lower bit rate. So right there, it's just to the top, slightly left to the rightmost hump of the M. Right there, it carves into that M. It does on both, but a little bit more on the Resynthesizer version. So I do see kind of pros and cons to both approaches. Certainly with the larger area, I think that the Resynthesizer is going to outperform. It just seems to do a little bit better job with recreating nearby textures without just making it look like a smoothed over mess. But I do see some times when you're near a sharp edge, having it just be a little bit smoother as opposed to it kind of guessing at what the details should be, like it does with Resynthesizer. I could see there how the DeLogo might be preferred. And you can also certainly pull in more pixels than what I did, just the 5 pixel radius. So that sums up those two methods. Again, DeLogo filter using VirtualDub, and then the Resynthesizer with GIMP script solution.